Assalamu alaikum. In the name of Allah, the most gracious, the most merciful. This is virtual class of Pakistan International School Taif. I am Muhammad Yasin. This English class is for the students of grade 5. We are doing 4th chapter of Active English Book 5. This is our 13th video in this class. After today's lesson, the students will be able to select subject and complement of a given sentence. They will be able to understand the passage given in chapter 4. They will also be able to understand the meaning and correct pronunciation of new words. Dear students, first of all, we shall review our previous knowledge of grammar. We shall review the things that we did in our previous lessons. For example, we learned about a sentence. What is a sentence? A sentence is a group of words which makes a complete sense and express our thoughts is called a sentence. Here is the example. Abdullah is playing football is a group of words which gives complete sense. That is why it is called a sentence. The other example is the sun rises in the east. It is giving also a complete sense. That is why this is also a sentence. Dear students, we have learned a sentence has two parts. One is called subject and the other is called predicate. We have learned about the subject. What is the subject? The part of a sentence that talks about a noun is the subject of the sentence. What is the predicate? The other part of the sentence that tells us about the subject is the predicate of the sentence. These are the examples. The children are enjoying in the park. What will be the subject? The children. The predicate will be are enjoying in the park. Ron and Sam go to the same school. Subject will be Ron and Sam. Predicate will be go to the same school. Dear students, a predicate has two parts. First we revised a sentence, then we came to know a sentence has two parts, subject and predicate. Now we shall revise that a predicate has two parts also. One is called a verb and the other is called an object. What is a verb? A verb is a word that describes or indicates an action. For example, the boys won the trophy. Won is the verb. An object is a person or thing that receives the action of the subject. Example is, the boys won the trophy. The trophy is the object of this sentence. Dear students, in our previous lesson, we discussed about complements. Dear students, a complement is a word or phrase that gives additional detail about the subject or an action of the verb. Complements are usually written after the verb within the predicate. We mentioned complements in our previous exercise, but we did not write the definition. The definition of a complement is a word or phrase that gives additional detail about the subject or the action of the verb. It is written after the verb in the predicate. Here are some examples. I have taken these examples from our previous exercise that we discussed in our previous lesson. You can see the whole exercise In each part there is an example of the complement. Dear students, this is exercise 7 of grammar. In previous lesson we did exercise 6. Here in this exercise we are set to pick out the subject and complement. In our previous exercise we picked up only complement, but here in this exercise we shall pick up the subject as well as the complement. Let us do it. I have divided it into two parts to make it more visible, like this. Here you can see the instructions are same. I have written here first 5 parts. What shall we do here? We have to pick up the subject and complement. For example, in first sentence, what will be the subject? The hunters will be the subject. What will be the complement? Hungry. What will be the subject in number 2? I. What will be the complement in number 2? Coward. Coward means not clever. What will be the subject in number 3? They. The complement will be bony. In number 4, subject will be Ahmed and complement will be fool. Let us mention them. We can mention by underlining, by drawing boxes, or any other way. I have changed the color of the subject. I have written here the subject in purple color and I have highlighted the complement to put some emphasis on that. You can see very well what are the subjects and what are the complements. These are first 5 parts. Let us move to the next let us move to the next 5 parts of this exercise. Dear students, what is the subject in part number 6? The boy. Complement will be serious. Subject in number 7, Riaz. Complement, secretary. Subject in number 8, the girls. Complement, simple. Let us mention the subject and complement. Yes. The words given in purple color are the subjects of these sentences and the highlighted words are the complements in each part. Dear students, I think you have got understanding of a complement, how to select it in a given sentence. Let us move forward. Dear students, our next lesson in Active English Book 5 is Chapter 4, that is the Well Digger. The name of the lesson is the Well Diggers. Dear students, you will find these words in that lesson. I want to tell you the meaning of these words. Try to pronounce them correctly. The first word is sensible. Sensible. Sensible means able to make good judgments. The next word is heap. What is this? Heap. An untidy pile of something. You can see here the heap of soil. You can say the heap of earth. The heap of earth or heap of soil. Heap of earth is used, the word in our lesson. What is this word? This word is pity. Pity. Pity means this is used to show disappointment. In this lesson, it is used at the end of the lesson to show some disappointment because the well diggers could not find any well. Nothing they got at the end of 3 days hard work. Next is cheerful. What is this? Cheerful. Cheerful means happy. Amusing. Amusing means funny and giving pleasure. Funny and giving pleasure. Let us move to our lesson. Dear students, this is the lesson. I have divided it into 4 parts to make it more visible. Otherwise, it was too small. We can start our lesson now. The Well Diggers. What is the name of the lesson? The Well Diggers. Alam and Arif. Alam and Arif. These are 2 characters in this story. Alam and Arif were 2 men. They were cheerful and hardworking, but not very sensible. They were not very clever. So simple they were. To tell the truth, they were rather stupid. Many amusing stories are told about the silly things they did. Perhaps you would like to hear one. One day, Alam said that he had no water for his rice plants. I must dig a well near my rice field, he said. Arif offered to help him dig the well. I will help you, he said, if I can use the water after we have dug it. Alam gladly accepted the offer and they began to dig. They dug all that day. By the end of the day, they had dug a big hole. We have done well, said Alam joyfully. We shall have a fine well when we have finished. Yes, students, you can see this is the first part of the lesson. What do we came to know? Alam wanted to dig a well. Arif offered his help, but this help was conditional that Alam would let him use water of the well when it is finished. Let us move to the second part of this lesson. In this part, what happened? Yes, said Arif, but what shall we do with the earth? After digging a big hole, they looked at the heap of earth, and Arif asked, what shall we do with the heap of this earth? He pointed to the big heap of earth which they had dug up. Yes, said Alam, that is a problem, isn't it? We cannot leave it there. I must think of something. When the 2 men met the next day, Alam looked very happy. I have found the answer to our problem, he said proudly. It's very simple. We must dig another hole. When we have dug another hole, we will put the earth in there. What a good idea, said Arif. Let us begin at once. Instead of finishing the well, the 2 men began digging another hole. By the end of the day, they had finished. Then they put all the earth from the well into the second hole. When they had finished, they were very pleased. We are clever men, they were happy. And they were thinking that they are very clever, said Alam boastfully. We soon found an answer to our little problem, didn't we? Yes, we did, said Arif. Then he saw the heap of earth which had come from the second hole. But what shall we do with that? Alam looked very puzzled. Yes, he said, that's the problem. I think I have made a mistake. Let us go home now. I will think about it. Tomorrow I will find the answer to the problem. Yes, students. Here we come to know that at looking at the heap of the earth that was gathered by digging the first hole was a problem. To solve that problem, they dug another hole and they put the soil gathered from the first hole into the second hole. Then they looked at the heap of earth gathered from the second hole, and they are puzzled again. They have decided to go home and think to solve this problem. Let us see, were they able to solve it or not? Dear students, here we can see the next day the two men met again. I have thought about our little problem, said Alam. Now I understand our mistake. We must dig another hole for the earth, but it must be a very big hole. It must be twice as big as the second hole. Yes, students, they are talking to dig a third hole, but they think the third hole should be double in size of the first or second. Let us see what happened then. All that day they dug. At the end of the day, they had finished the third hole. It was twice as big as the second hole, but they had another big heap of earth. Oh, they put the earth from the second hole in it, and there was room for the more earth. Dear students, here room means more space was there in the third hole to put some more soil. Then they started to put the earth from the big heap back into the hole, but they could put only half of the earth in. Then the hole was full. The hole, which was the third, which was double in size than the second and first, was full now. And half of the earth, half of the soil gathered from the third hole was still left. Then they looked at that soil. What shall we do now? Said Arif. We still have this heap of earth. There is only one answer to our problem, said Alam. We must put this earth into the hole we dug for our well. At this point, first hole was empty and half of the soil gathered from the third hole was over there. Now they are thinking to resolve this issue. What is the issue now? Half of the soil gathered from the third hole. Now they are thinking to put it in the first hole, in their well in fact. But when we have done that, we shall have no well, said Arif. You are right, said Alam. What a pity. Dear students, they dug 3 holes, and at the end of third day, they had nothing. They dug 3 holes, and then they filled all these 3 holes with the soil which came out of these holes. After 3 days, all the holes were filled with the soil that was gathered by digging the holes. Dear students, they worked for 3 days. How many holes did they dig? They dug 3 holes. First and second hole were equal in size, but the third hole was double in size of first and second. Dear students, I think you have got understanding of this passage given in this lesson. After reading this lesson, let's move to the first exercise. Dear students, if we look at the first exercise, it looks like this in your book. We shall do all these parts one by one. I have divided this exercise into 2 parts first of all. Then we shall do each part of the exercise. Dear students, if we look here, first part says Alam and Arif were lazy men. Were they lazy? They were not lazy. Lazy means who does not want to work, who avoids to do work. Let us see what is written in the lesson. Alam and Arif were two men. Dear students, this text is taken from your lesson. I have taken it from the lesson to show you here what is written here. Alam and Arif were two men. They were cheerful and hardworking. Dear students, what is written here about Alam and Arif? It is written that they were hardworking. If someone is hardworking, can he be lazy? No, he cannot be lazy. Both of them were hardworking. They were not lazy. That is why part A is false. This part is untrue. When a part is untrue, what shall we do? We are guided here. Put a tick by the sentences that are true and a cross by the ones that are untrue. Part A is untrue. That is why we shall put a cross like this. Let us look at the second part. They were not very clever. Dear students, here is written, they were cheerful and hardworking, but not very sensible. Not very sensible means not very clever. Yes, this part is true. They were not very clever. Clever means sensible. They were not very clever. This part is true. We can see here it is mentioned that they were not sensible. That is why we shall put a tick against B part. Let us move to the third part. What is the third part? The third part is they took one day to dig the first hole. They took one day to dig the first hole. Let us see. Here we can say Alam gladly accepted the offer and they began to dig. They dug all that day. By the end of the day, they had dug a big hole. They took one day to dig the first hole. Yes, we can see here, by the end of the day, they had dug a big hole. What does it mean? C part is also correct. This is true. That is why we shall put a tick against C part also. Let us move forward. The first hole was a small one. Was the first hole a small one? Let us see here. By the end of the day, they had dug a big hole. The first hole was a big hole also. Though we learned in the lesson that the third hole was twice in size than the first and the second, but the first and second were not small ones also. What is written here about the first hole? By the end of the day, they had dug a big hole. What does it mean? The first hole was a small one? No, it was not a small one. It was a big hole. That is why we shall put a cross against D part. Let us put a cross. Okay, let us move to the last one. They dug the second hole because they wanted two wells. Do they want two wells? No, they wanted one well only. We can see it in the text also. Dear students, if we look in our lesson, we can see I have found the answer to our problem. He said proudly, it's very simple. We must dig another hole. When we have dug another hole, we will put the earth in there. Dear students, they dug the second hole to put the earth in there. To put the earth in there. But here is written, they dug the second hole because they wanted two wells. This is wrong statement. This is untrue. They did not dig the second hole because they wanted two wells, but they dug the second hole to put the earth gathered from the first hole. That is why this part is untrue, and we shall put a cross against it. Let us put a cross like this. Dear students, we have done first 5 parts of exercise 1. Now we shall move to the next 5 parts of this exercise. Dear students, these are next 5 parts from F to J. We shall do these ones one by one. Now, the second hole was bigger than the first hole. Was the second hole bigger than the first hole? I don't think so. Let us look in the lesson. It is written here, instead of finishing the well, the two men began digging another hole. By the end of the day, they had finished. Then they put all the earth from the well into the second hole. When they had finished, they were very pleased. Dear students, we are told here, they could put the soil from the first hole to the second hole. This means first and second holes were of the same size. First two holes were of the same size. But here is written the second hole was bigger than the first hole. What does it mean? It means this statement is untrue. We shall put a cross over there. Let us move to the next. They put the earth from the second hole into the first hole. Dear students, this part is a little tricky. Try to understand. Here is written, they put the earth from the second hole into the first hole, but they did not put the soil from the second into the first. They put the earth from the first into the second. This statement is opposite. Do you understand? This statement is opposite. You can see, then they put all the earth from the well. From the well means from the first hole into the second hole. Here is written into the second hole. Here is written into the first hole. What does it mean? It means the statement is untrue. We shall put a cross. Alam and Arif dug for 3 days. Did they dig for 3 days? Yes, they dug for 3 days. Let us see in the lesson all that they dug. At the end of the day, they had finished the third hole. This was the third hole which they dug on third day. This means Alam and Arif dug for 3 days. This statement is true. They dug 4 holes. Did they dig 4 holes? No. They dug 3 holes only, though the third one was twice in size. That is why this statement is wrong. In the end, they had a fine well. Could they have a fine well? No. But when we have done that, we shall have no well, said Arif. You are right, said Alam. What a pity. At the end, they had nothing, no well. Dear students, we have finished next 5 parts of this exercise also. After doing this exercise, it would look like this. Dear students, in your homework, You will do exercise 7 of grammar in your notebook. Then you will read the whole passage given in this lesson to get some more understanding. Then you will do exercise 1 given at the end of this lesson. Dear students, that is all from our today's lesson. See you later in another lesson. Goodbye.